Hello, my name is Zofia Kulisiewicz and I would like to welcome you to the third episode of the Cello Mosaic program, which is funded by the Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage as part of Online Culture Scholarship. Today's episode will focus on the Sonata for Cello and Piano by Szymon Laks. Szymon Laks was born on 1st of November 1901 in Warsaw and died on 11th of December 1983 in Paris. He was a composer, conductor, writer and a translator. Between 1919 and 1921, he studied maths at the Stefan Batory University in Vilnius. In 1921, he enrolled at the Warsaw Conservatory to study composition and counterpoint with Piotr Rytel, Roman Statkowski and Henryk Melzer. In 1926, he moved to Paris to continue his studies with Paul Vidal. He was a member of the Society of Young Polish Musicians in Paris and a Paris school which was created before the Second World War by Eastern European composers such as Bohusław Martinu. In 1941, he was imprisoned in Pithiviers camp as a foreign Jew. A year later, he was deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau camp, where he worked as a violinist, copyist, and later on as a conductor of the camp orchestra. Those duties and a fluent knowledge of foreign languages were the reason why he stayed alive. In 1944, he was moved to Dachau camp, where he remained for the rest of the war. He described his war experiences in Music from Another World, a book that he wrote together with René Caudy in French. He rewrote the book in Polish in 1970 and titled it Auschwitz Games. It was eventually published in 1979 in London. This book is available in several languages, and I strongly encourage you to get to know the cruelty of the concentration camp through the beauty of music. In 1948, he returned to Paris, where he gained French citizenship. He didn't compose much until the 1960s, and then he focused mostly on vocal music. In 1967, after the Six-Day War, he stopped composing altogether. He then said himself that the music silenced inside him forever. He then worked as a journalist, writer, and translator. Despite the majority of vocal works, Szymon Laks wrote also a number of chamber music. It is worth mentioning here his string quartets and his piano quintet. His three-movement sonata for cello and piano was written in 1932 and was dedicated to Maurice Maréchal, a French outstanding cellist. It is an example of composer's youthful spirit where he combines tradition with innovation. It is overall kept in a neoclassical style with Polish and French inspiration and elements of Slavic and Roman music. The first movement, Allegro moderato ma deciso, is kept in sonata form, and the instruments switch in taking the leading role. The second movement, Andante un poco grave, is kept in blues character, which is an example of the jazz inspiration, and some of the harmonies remind of Maurice Ravel. The third movement, Presto scherzo, due to its 5 irregular measure groups and jazz harmonies, remind of Dave Brubeck's Avant la lettre. That thought can be taken even further, and we could compare that movement to Take 5, a piece written in 1959. It is worth taking a minute to think about the mutual inspiration of classical and jazz music. Sonata for Cello and Piano by Szymon Laks was first published in 1962 by Henry Lemoine in Paris. During the last few years, Laks's compositions have been noticed by Bossy and Hawkes in Berlin, and particularly by one man, Frank Harders-Wutenow, who has worked very hard to publish many previously unknown compositions by this composer. Both editions carry some inaccuracies and differences between the cello and the piano part. It seems that the editor did not want to interfere in the manuscript. However, it is a shame that no one talked to Laks about the tempo of the first movement. Here the metronome markings are completely different. Or questioned the differences in articulation and dynamics when the composer was still alive. This is probably the reason why this piece will sound different with each performance, depending on the interpretation of the performers. Today I would like to encourage you to listen to the recording made in 2010 for Nimbus Records by British cellist Raphael Wallfish and pianist John York. This recording is available on Spotify. It is a shame that it's foreign musicians, not Polish, who decided to rediscover the music of this amazing Polish composer. Thank you for listening. That was the last episode of the Cello Mosaic program funded by the Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage as part of the Online Culture Scholarship. I hope you had a nice time rediscovering those forgotten works for cello and piano by Polish composers.